Hi everyone. Coming up, you are going to be writing an informational piece of writing in the form of a web page, a blog post. It could be an infographic or even a podcast. Um, and in order to write those well, we're going to be using mentor texts, which is when you use a good example of whatever it is you're creating to inform your writing. Now, I'm not going to just sit you down with a mentor text and expect you to get all of the information you need out of it. Instead, I'm going to teach you a strategy today that will help you get the most out of your mentor texts. This is called the talk back strategy. So, it has 5 steps. It's very simple. So let's dive in. Step 1, you're going to read the text. This could be a video, actually. It could be a podcast that you're listening to, or it could be an article or a blog post or a book. But you're first going to read the text and just decide for yourself, what is the overall message? What is the author trying to say here? And how do I feel about it? Then, step 2, you're going to zoom in on one specific part of the text that's really stood out to you. And you're going to ask yourself, why did this stand out to me? Is it because I'm confused about something? Do I have questions? Was it really insightful? Do I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? Then you're going to write. So you're going to write like you are the author's peer. This is important because then you'll be writing more freely, and you won't be afraid to ask questions that you might not otherwise ask. So you're going to ask questions like you would with a friend, talk about how you're feeling about the text, what you disagree with, agree with, all of those things that you just reflected on. Step 4, look for clues. Since we are talking about mentor texts, it's important to look for the author's choices that they made as a writer that you think made their piece strong. And step 5, once you're all done with that, you're going to get together with your friends and talk about what you just did. We learn so much more when we are collaborative. So now I'm going to model this process for you. I know that I want to create a web page or an interactive blog post, something like that. And I know that I want to do it about the coronavirus because that's a very relevant topic and I'm very interested in it. So I found this interactive article that I think could be really helpful for me. It's called The 4 Bright Spots Amid the Gloom of Coronavirus. So step 1 was to read. I already read this piece, and I know that the overall message is that there are good things happening in the midst of this crisis. So in our graphic organizer, first I'm of course going to write the title, leave the URL there as well. And then for step 1, determining the overall message, I wrote that the purpose of the article was to show the reader all of the wonderful ways people are responding to the crisis. And then how do I feel about that? I think it's a valuable message because often people focus on the negative when really there are some positive things that are happening even during a hard time. So then step 2, zoom in. The part of this article that stood out to me the most was this section called Kindness is Being Celebrated. When I was reading, I noticed that there were a lot of examples. Like people are serenading each other. Animal shelters have increased foster applications. Volunteers are buying groceries for neighbors. We're offering exclusive hours for older shoppers. Keep going. There's landlords lowering rent. There's so many good things happening, but I noticed right away, where is this information coming from? This is all really good stuff, but I find myself wondering how credible it is because I don't know where it's coming from. So I made sure to write that down here because that's something I would want to ask the author if I had the chance to. I want to know more about each of these examples. And even though they're all great things, the lack of details makes me wonder about its credibility. And then once I've read this whole section again, and I've read all of these wonderful things people are doing, it leaves me wondering, what's going to happen when this is all over? Are we going to continue being kind to each other, or is it just going to go back to the way life was before? So that's something I want to leave here to come back and think about because that might be the direction I go in for my writing. And then step 4, look for clues. What did the author do as a writer that I think I could include in my own writing to make my piece stronger? In this article, it has something that's very cool that I haven't seen a lot of other places. Throughout the article, there are polls. So what do you think? I think that having something like this in my webpage or in my blog post would be really valuable because as a reader, I like feeling like the writer cares about my opinion. And as a writer, I think it would be really cool to know how my audience feels about my topic. So I made sure to write that down here. And that is the process. So step 1, we read the text, determined the overall message. Step 2, we zoomed in, we found a part that was particularly interesting and reflected on it. Step 3, write a response to the author. Ask those questions, talk about all of the stuff you reflected on right here. And then step 4, look for clues. What did the author include that I think is really valuable and could improve my own writing? And step 5, talk. When you are all done doing the first 4 steps, you're going to get together and talk about what you've done so far so that we can just further understand where other people are coming from and form our own ideas. And we always just learn so much better when we talk to each other about it. So what you're going to do now is try it yourselves.